Yes, I'm with Gary, who's from Jersey, but actually lives in England. He's in receipt of care in England. Tell us a bit about your situation, Gary.
Yeah, well, I basically went blind about 3 years ago. Had trouble with my eyes, and I was registered blind, had various operations, still can't see anything, and I'm formally and officially registered blind. So as soon as I came out of hospital, I had this crisis situation at hospital. As soon as I came out of hospital, I was in there for about 6 months. I was appointed a social worker, and that social worker in Chesterfield, where I live, who's employed by Derbyshire County Council, had to basically get a package together for me of benefits, care assistance, improve my accommodation, etc.
In basic terms, you don't have to tell us every personal detail, but you've got accommodation, which is provided for you.
Yes.
And that's what sort of, a flat? Or?
I've got a council flat, ground floor council flat, which has been adapted, and that's rent-free because of the way that the housing benefit situation works in the UK.
Have you any idea what the rent of that unit would be if you were paying rent?
Yes, I think the market value is probably about £45 a week or so. Rents are quite low in working class area, but yeah, I've looked into that, and the formal rental is perhaps 40 to 50, 70 pounds a week, something like that. But that's all paid for by housing benefit, which is correct because these are poor people who don't have an income or live on benefits.
Right.
And also your council tax is also paid as well.
Right.
So that's got to be taken on as a package.
The guy who did the organising, the guy you say, the welfare worker who organised the package, did he have a speciality in looking after people with sight impairment, or was he just a general assistant? He could deal with anybody?
No, I mean, in the UK, in every council area, there is a proper network of social workers who do have specialisms. So I met several who have responsibility for disabled people in general, but one who did my proper assessment, and there was a very detailed form that we had to go through. He was a dedicated worker for people with visual impairment and had worked in it for a long time.
Do you know, I mean, just because this is in Jersey, there's all sorts of peculiarities about residential qualifications and you have to live in the area. So you were in a particular area, Chesterfield. Did you have to have lived in Chesterfield for any particular length of time?
No, not really. No. I worked in Chesterfield at the college for a few years. I got this council flat through applying through the normal process. In England, councils have a duty to home people, and I was in the private sector. And then, because of my health problems, I applied for council housing. Fairly easy process. I mean, there was a waiting list, but it's certainly not as big as a housing problem as Jersey has. So, if you fit the criteria, then relatively easy to get social housing.
If you wanted to stay in private accommodation, would there be similar assistance for you? Would somebody pay your rent for you and so on?
Yes, I believe so. You'd still have a housing benefit and you'd get assistance.
And adaptions, they would do adaptions for you?
Yes, you get adaptions done. The council itself does adaptions, like changes your shower situation, bathroom, kitchen, hallway, all sorts of adaptions, brings in a security system. I also have a 24/7 contact with this care line service for emergencies if anything was to happen to me. I'm not just blind, I have other problems as well. But I have this 24/7 contact with the care line service, which again is run by the council. The only thing I'd say though is that care line service, for example, they've just reduced the staffing quite considerably. And there's a campaign on to protect that at the moment. I don't want to give the impression, even though my package is reasonably good, I don't want to give the impression though that there aren't campaigns and battles to be fought in England. The cuts at the moment, quite vicious cuts which are going on across the councils in England, are quite damaging, and recently I've had to get involved with a number of campaigns and also get my local Labour MP to defend my situation.
Right. The carers you've got, what sort of a team, just to be clear, you've got a team of carers or what do you call on? What have you got there? Right,
what I have is I employ an agency. Now the thing in the UK that's happened in the last few years is a concept of independence. Very similar to this care in the community idea that Jersey is now looking at. And the basis of this is that disabled people should have their own right to employ who they wish. So to effect that, what they do now, originally when I went blind, I had council workers coming in and looking after me. And these were paid workers from the local council with proper pension rights and proper wage rights, members of trade union, and fairly protected. But what the councils are doing are laying those people off, making them redundant, and they're giving a concept called direct payments to disabled people, so that I receive from Derbyshire County Council, I receive an amount per week, which is called direct payments, and it's self-directed. So I can either employ somebody, I can employ one or two people myself as an employee, or otherwise I can use an agency. If you really fight hard, you can still retain the council. One or two older people who are used to the council have managed to fight to keep the council coming in, but that's been reduced. It's an attempt to privatise, really, social care. So effectively what happens to me, I have an agency which specialises in looking after people, not really a fully professional agency that would deal with the blind, for example, but an agency that has been passed by the Quality Care Commission in the UK.
Do you know that those staff, do you get to choose the staff, or they send somebody along and you...
There's a degree of flexibility. On my budgets that I have, I'm able to employ them for 20 hours a week, and I have breakfast and evening meal assistance, and then I have a certain number of social hours per week. It isn't really enough, to lead a full life, but it's sufficient. It's sufficient to have a life.
And what can they do? They can obviously look after you in the flat. They can do what needs to be. Can they take you out?
Yes, indeed. I mean, that's how I get out, really. Otherwise, I wouldn't get out. I'd be socially isolated. That's why I've had to fight with my MPs to retain this proportion, because the social side is the most important, really. So I can go out to the doctors. I can go out shopping. I can attend classes, adult education classes. I can go to social events. I can sit in the pub and have a pint, or I can attend theatre or events.
What's the budget which is allowed for your care? For your 20 hours, what's the budget allowed for that?
Well, it's £10 an hour.
£10
that this agency charges. And I shopped around, really, compared the agencies in my locality, which was the best, which had the best options. What they keep doing with me, because of my interests and because I like to write and research things, they keep sending me, interestingly, they keep sending me graduates. And these are young girl graduates in their early 20s who can't get jobs. They just can't get jobs in the recession at the moment as graduates. Like one of the girls I have at the moment is a graduate in criminology. Another girl I had 6 months ago had an MA from Edinburgh University. And these are highly qualified youngsters.
So socially it's very interesting to meet such people, because you're
useful for me, because I like to talk about things. And
if you're paying the agency £10 an hour, what are the staff getting, do you know?
The staff are all on minimum wage.
Right.
And this is a problem. When you privatise things, obviously labour costs get reduced. And I understand that the workers who used to work for Chesterfield Borough Council, the home helps, which were employed by the state, would have got 3 times more than the girls now get, and they would get paid double on bank holidays, etc. They'd have the full trade union rights, because it was all campaigned for over a period of years.
Obviously these staff have all been police checked, or whatever the equivalent checks are for people like that.
Yes, they're CRB checks.
They don't necessarily have any care qualifications.
No, but what they do, they go into a rapid training scheme. All these private agencies pay for care quality training, health and safety training, food hygiene training, and these girls go off for a full day and get this training at various centres.
If you needed more medical care, injections or monitoring that, so would these people be able to do that, or would they?
They do minimal medical care. They do my medication and things like that. But I think if you're getting into that area, which I know quite a few disabled people are in that situation, I think then what happens is you get on top of that, on top of the home assistance, you would get a district nurse, from the NHS,
Right.
who would come every day to do your injections or to.
Right. So that service.
So that's an extra service on top for people who are.
And that would be free. That wouldn't be.
That would be free as well, certainly, because the NHS.
Do they have the old concept of home helps? Do they still exist?
Yes. Well, I used to have home helps until I employed this agency.
Right. But you can't
But
have
the home helps are under very direct attack because all the councils are having to cut things, and the first thing that goes is services to the disabled.
Right.
At the moment, I'm part of a campaign called the Hardest Hit campaign, which is run by, it's a thing called the Disability Alliance, which is about over 100 different disabled action groups have come together, including the RNIB, Action for the Blind, Scope, Alzheimer's Society, across the board really, wheelchair-bound people, deaf, blind, everybody. And the basis is that we are campaigning to suggest that when there is a recession or a crisis, it's the disabled that get the brunt of everything. We get hit hardest, and if you look at the statistics and you look at the history, it's always been the case.